Hello, scholars, and welcome to your mini lecture on the Ars Nova. So around 1300, people started to describe a new style of composing music. And they referred to this style as Ars Nova, which means new art. And they compared it to the organum of Notre Dame. Remember Léonine and Perrotin that we discussed last time. And they called the organum of Notre Dame Ars Antiqua, or old art. So this new style, this Ars Nova, is being compared to the organum of Notre Dame called Ars Antiqua. So the Ars Nova came about during a period of tumult and breaking traditions throughout Europe. The church was split. There were two rival popes during this time. The bubonic plague, otherwise known as Black Death, killed 75 million people in Europe. And there was corruption in the courts of kings and princes that we talked about with court music. So there was a lot going on during this time, socially, societally, and economically. Lots of changes were happening. The church is splitting, the courts are corrupt, and people are dying. So lots of tumult and breaking traditions in this period of the 1300s to 1400s, which is part of why the Ars Nova comes about. And the conventions of the Ars Nova, polyphonic music became more intricate. So it's still polyphonic, still multiple melodies, but it becomes more and more intricate, even more so than Léonin and Perrotin. And there were two main composers of the Ars Nova. The first is Philippe de Vitry, and the second is Guillaume de Machaut. And I should mention that I pronounce things in a funny way because I have had training in languages, French, German, Italian, Russian, and Spanish. So I'm attempting to pronounce these as they would have been pronounced as native speakers would pronounce them. So these are French composers. So you would pronounce their names Philippe de Vitry and Guillaume de Machaut. And we're going to focus on the second of these composers, Guillaume de Machaut. He is the most important composer of the 14th century, so the 1300s we're talking about. He's the greatest French poet of his time, so not just a composer, but also a poet. He was a churchman, but he also served in the courts. So he served religious and non-religious people, both sacred and secular. He wrote primarily secular polyphony, though. So polyphony for non-religious reasons. And he is the creator of a genre called chanson. And this in French could be translated as song. He created this genre by adapting the trouvère traditions of storytelling through music and using Ars Nova polyphony. So by now, there's no trace of Gregorian chant. All traces of Gregorian chant are gone in Guillaume de Machaut's chanson. So we have the storytelling of Trouvère, uh, but the Ars Nova polyphony, so the new polyphony of the 1300s. And this is 400 years after our first trace of polyphony. Our example of a piece of a chanson by Guillaume de Machaut is Dame de qui toute ma joie vient, which again, I'm pronouncing it as close to native French as I can. Of course, I'm a native English speaker, so my French isn't perfect, but that is close to how the French would pronounce it. Dame de qui toute ma joie vient, which means lady from whom all my joy comes. So the woman from whom I get all my joy in life. And this is a chanson by Guillaume de Machaut. There are 4 voices or parts. And the reason I say voices or parts is because it could either be sung or played by instruments. And you can mix and match too. You can have 2 voices, 2 instruments. You can have 3 voices, 1 instrument. You can have all 4 voices. You can have all 4 instruments. You can mix and match the voices or parts. And this is very melismatic. Melismatic, meaning it uses melismas. And remember, melismas are one syllable that has many notes. So using many notes on one syllable, melismatic. And the top line is sung, but the bottom 3 lines could be sung or use instruments. That's how it's typically done. The top line has to be sung because it has the melody. It could be played by an instrument, but then you lose the words. So typically the top line is sung and the bottom 3 lines could be sung or they could use instruments. But only the top line was specified by Machaut as being sung. So Machaut said only the top line needs to be sung. All the others you can do with as you please. And each stanza is composed following an A prime, B form. This is a standard form adapted from the Trouvère tradition. So again, Trouvère storytelling, Trouvère form, but new style, new art of composing. This is our example of the Ars Nova, Dame de qui toute ma joie vient by Guillaume de Machaut. So the biggest thing is that it sounds like Machaut is starting to pay attention to how the lines interact with each other musically. The polyphony of past ages was just multiple melodies that are independent and don't have too much to do with each other musically. They're just happening at the same time, saying the same words, but they're not really focused on how they sound together. But now we can hear Machaut starting to pay more attention to how the individual lines, even though they are still individual and independent, there's a little bit more care taken for how they sound together. So That is our chanson by Guillaume de Machaut, our example of ars nova, the new art of composing. And that's it for this video. I'll talk to you next time.